Another week, same story. Kind of doesn't matter if it ends in a win or a loss. Earlier in the season, they were ending in wins. They were known as the Comeback Cards. It was kind of easy to forgive or forget some of the hindrance or weaknesses of this current Louisville Cardinals team when they're coming back and they're getting the W's. That's not the case of recent. Louisville is now 7-3 on the season, 4-3 in the ACC, following a 20-19 loss at home to Clemson. All three of those losses coming at home at L&N Stadium. All three by a grand total of 7 points. All three, and it's easy to say, and I'll go ahead and say it because it is easy to say, are a result of Louisville shooting themselves in the foot. Penalties, turnovers, an offense that hasn't found a consistent rhythm all year long, taking sacks in opportune times. We saw that against Clemson. Late, a couple opportunities to win by a field goal. Personal foul penalty, pushing them back even further. And then you've got the special teams having their first struggle in the field goal department of the season. All added up to a 20-19 loss to the Clemson Tigers, and another one that they should have won. You could easily make the argument that Louisville should be 10-0. They could also have lost a couple of those games that they were able to come back and win. It's been a frustrating season. What do you say we hike about it? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to grade the offense, defense, and special teams. Not going to spend much time on any of that because it's really worth it. You saw what I saw, most likely. But we'll touch base on each one of those, dish out some grades, and I'm going to share my thoughts on just this football season in general. 2 big games coming up, SMU on the road, and then wrapping things up with the Governor's Cup. Louisville football is clearly not in the spot that it wants to be in. How will they respond? What can we expect? We'll talk about all that as well. This offense, pretty dismal outing by the offense, and you could point the fingers all over the place. It's a group that has never been able to find a consistent rhythm at all, mainly in obviously the passing game. Against Clemson, you saw guys committing after the whistle personal fouls that severely impacted the Cardinals' chances of coming away with a win. Can't have that. You've got a quarterback, a veteran quarterback, still struggling with decision making. Takes a sack you shouldn't take. Very, very painful sack in Louisville's chances to get a win. And you could continue. It was a team effort. Somebody who continues to shine is Keywan Brown, despite the injuries that have just plagued the running back room this year, which Keywan Brown has been dinged up as well. That dude's just continuing to shine with his back-to-back 100-yard games. So certainly a star there, but it doesn't go beyond that as the Louisville offense struggled mightily, shooting themselves in the foot multiple times. For their performance, going to use that loosely, in the loss to Clemson, boosted because of the play of Keywan Brown, but really drugged down by the continued struggles with penalties, continued struggles with decision making at quarterback, etc. You're getting a D. Can't believe I'm giving the Louisville offense a D, especially in week 10, or game 10, I should say. That was a game that was gifted to Clemson. But let's move on. Offense, you're getting a D. The Louisville defense. It wasn't their best, but it was far from their worst. That's for sure. Clemson came in, especially passing the ball, feeling pretty good about themselves. They've become one of the more efficient and hotter passing teams in recent weeks, basically since October arrived. Cardinals held them to just 308 total yards. They only allowed 1 out of 13 third down conversions. The Louisville defense, while it wasn't great and they gave up some big plays here and there, they did what they needed to do. Again, getting the Louisville offense the ball multiple times with an opportunity to win. And while it wasn't the defense's best outing, there were some big plays here and there, and we could nitpick some of those. It does look like they made some needed adjustments and some improvements from the Cal game, where they just absolutely got torched through the air, versus the Clemson game. Again, while they may have bent some, they didn't break, and they gave the offense an opportunity to win the game. Great to see Stanquan Clark back out there. There was some rust, but he finished up with a tied for the team high with 7 tackles, including 1.5 for a loss. So it was great to see him in there starting to make an impact again as well. Overall, the defense for your performance against Clemson, we're going to give you a C. The Louisville special teams, that's a group that has rightfully gotten praise all season long. I bet after every single hike that I can recall that I've done this year, they've gotten a pretty good grade, and they've been one consistent, positively impactful group all season long. There's no question about it, until Clemson, when it took a complete 180. A couple missed field goals, mixed extra point, and you lose 20-19. Oh, that's severely painful. Sure, the offense did not help the special teams. They could have been closer for these field goals, but late, long-distance field goals, those are the things kickers dream of. And Louisville had 2 opportunities to go ahead on late, long-distance field goals late in the fourth quarter, and were unable to make that positive impact against the Tigers. For their performance against Clemson, the special teams, you're getting a D-. Let's hope it's just a 1-game blip, and you return to the upper echelon of those grades starting this coming Saturday down at SMU. It was just a couple weeks ago, but it kind of feels like an eternity ago, where we were talking about this Louisville team as the comeback cards. They had overcome many of their own mistakes to come back and win. They were supposed to be learning and stacking wins, and they were doing that, but it seems like all those little miscues, all those little red flags that we saw during those comeback wins have come back and finally caught up to this team, because they've continued to be that team all season long. When you look up penalties nationally, Louisville ranks 117th, and that includes a couple games where they didn't have many. Think about that. But in this last game, which is again the 10th game of the season from veteran players, the personal foul penalties are just mind-numbing. Jeff Brom in his weekly press conference on Monday said, "That's on me. That's on the head coach. That's the head coach's responsibility, and it should not happen." There's a few other things that should not happen. Taking a sack when you should not take a sack. I've often said that the offense has not been able to find a consistent groove all year long, and obviously that kind of starts, even though you've got a running game that's been banged up, that yet continues to perform against defenses that are expecting them to run the ball. They continue to put up big numbers. It all starts with your quarterback. And Miller Moss, when you look at his efficiency rating, 84th nationally. It's hard to be a Power 4 program with its purpose and goal and expectation to end in the conference championship and then move on to the college football playoff, with a quarterback that's sitting 84th nationally in efficiency rating. Now, I don't want to put it all on his shoulders. The offensive line is certainly, especially in the pass block area, has had its struggles as well. But whatever the case may be, it's an offense that struggles. It's now the offense's identity. Obviously, many are clamoring to see a new quarterback for the Cardinals. They were clamoring for it against Clemson, and the hope is increased amongst Card Nation that it may happen against SMU. This is a Louisville team that needs, especially offensively, that needs a spark, whether that be a quarterback change or whatever the case may be. It's got to start with first cleaning yourself up, something that we have repeatedly said probably on every single Let's Hike throughout the 2025 season. And it seemed like it got a little worse of recent. Cardinals with a big game at SMU. I'm expecting They're currently opened as a 1.5 point dog. I think they're at 3 at the time of making this video. I expect that number to probably increase in favor of the Mustangs as the week progresses and gets closer to that Saturday at noon kickoff. But I'm expecting the Cardinals to, unfortunately, come away with a loss. I'm expecting them to shoot themselves in the foot a few times. I'm expecting them to have an opportunity to pull ahead or potentially win late in the game and not be able to do so, because that's become the identity, unfortunately, for this Louisville offense. I can't believe that after 10 games we're concerned about the Louisville offense. I did not anticipate that. I didn't expect them to be the best offense in the country, but with the running game that they had coming back and the expectations of Miller Moss leading this offense, certainly expecting them to be in the upper portions of the ACC, and a team that could put together multiple touchdown drives, and ones that don't necessarily always need a big play. One that can chew up the clock and go down the field at least a couple times during the game and do that, but we're not seeing that. And it's become really the identity for this offense. It's either hand the ball off and see what happens, or cross your fingers. You've got individual seasons that are kind of being overshadowed by an ineffective offense. Chris Bell having a great season, Keywan Brown having a great season. But even besides their big impacts, Colin Lacey, this offense just can't get out of its own way. And I expect that we'll continue to see that at SMU. I'm expecting a loss at SMU at this point, and I'm not sure what to expect against Kentucky at this point, which is kind of crazy because just a few weeks ago, I thought Louisville would win easily in that game. But with a team that consistently struggles with its own offense, with undisciplined things, turnovers, and the like, it's something that's gone on now for 10 games. Yeah, I could see why the spread's probably going to grow as the game nears against SMU. And at this point, is the Louisville-Kentucky game about even? That's the way it's looking on ESPN's Football Power Index. It's getting pretty close to 50-50. This is a season that's become shoulda, woulda, coulda. A lot of hope, a lot of expectations, just kind of fizzled out. And they were never able to figure out what is ailing them. So moving forward, do you start thinking of the future? I mean, you've got some quarterbacks on the depth chart that you recruited out of high school that all seemed promising out of high school. What do you have to lose? But the only thing you have to lose is the Governor's Cup. That should be a huge motivator, but even with that, there's guys on the roster who probably could use some actual game, meaningful game reps at this point. And the way the offense has been sputtering under Miller Moss, can it sputter even anymore under anybody else? Wouldn't be a bad idea to find out. I do not expect that we'll see a new starting quarterback against SMU, but you got to think that if they're in a similar predicament, which I anticipate that they will be, struggling to win a game where they could very well win, how do you not pull the trigger? See if somebody else can give you a spark and get you a late score. Going from 10-2 to potentially 7-5, is that what we're looking at? It's quite possible. How unfortunate. Shoulda, woulda, coulda season 2025. Like the sun's coming straight down on the trail. And it kind of is setting on the 2025 season for Let's Hike Louisville football. Just a couple regular season games left. We'll do at least one during the postseason, after a bowl game, maybe two. We'll see how things unfold. But certainly not the season that I was anticipating. I had pretty confident going into the year that Louisville would hit the Charlotte for the ACC championship, and for a minute there, looked like they did, as they were able to make those comebacks and start to creep up into the discussion, got into the college football playoff rankings. They're no longer anywhere to be found in any of those major rankings, which is quite unfortunate. But we will continue to discuss these Cardinals and this 2025 season until it is complete. Fingers crossed it finishes up 10-3, wins over SMU, Kentucky, and whoever in a bowl game. However it turns out, we'll find a trail and hike about it. Appreciate you going hiking with Michael McCammon.